April 6th, 1814, Napoleon abdicates for the first time. April 6th, 1814. He writes this letter, and I quote, "The Allied powers having declared that the Emperor Napoleon is the sole obstacle to the reestablishment of a general peace in Europe, the Emperor Napoleon, faithful to his oath, declares that he renounces for himself and his heirs the throne of France and Italy, and that there is no personal sacrifice, not even that of life itself, which he is not willing to make for the interest of France. Napoleon is willing to even lay down his life for France. Of course he'll abdicate. Of course he'll abdicate. Of course he'll quit and give up and then go be put out to pasture since he was fucking shit up." A couple quick facts about Napoleon. He was 5'2". I heard one report 5'6". 5'6" is a little bit better. 5'2". It's not his fault, right? In fact, he could be very much an inspiration for short men out there. He can't help that, so I'll leave him be on that, but I didn't realize he was that short. I'm like a whole foot taller than Napoleon. He was pretty successful. By the time he was age 26, he was a general of the entire French army. By the time he was 30, he did a coup d'etat in France. It ended the chaos of the French Revolution, but he named himself chief consul, so, like the president. And then in 1804, he declared himself emperor. And so he was emperor, quote unquote, when he was 35 years old. The reason why I put that in quotes because in 1804 is when the Haitians beat Napoleon in the Haitian Revolution. So what kind of empire is losing its colonies? Some other things that he did, he was an asshole, okay? So the biggest issue, he's an imperialist, right, piece of shit. I don't think he was actually carrying the revolution on, but he did, he did destroy the Holy Roman Empire, and he did fight kings and queens. So when they say, they're fighting Great Britain and Germany and all this, that's kings and queens. It's not the people of Germany, it's the, monarchs. So I like that, but what I hate is when he was fighting Haiti, he said he wanted to conquer Haiti just to stop the march of progress by black people, just to stop Africans from ever making a mark in the world, not to, get any money, not to get his resources back, not to have territory in the Western Hemisphere, but to stop black people from succeeding. I mean, he could have joined a nice coalition. That could have been. I find that racism just absolutely disgusting. That's just disgusting. It's gross. He went into war just to stop black people from succeeding. Is that a reason to go into war? That's not a reason to go into war. That's just some crazy bullshit. It's even more disturbing because the French Revolution, a lot of free blacks and there's the end of slavery. There's a lot of good things that was bringing about, equal rights. But Napoleon, quashed all that. He killed it all. Napoleon, I don't like Napoleon. I don't care for any oppressors, and he, was an oppressor. When he was a kid, they used to call him Napoleon. When he was a kid, "Hey, Napoleon, what's up, Napoleon?" And he's probably like, "Oh, I'll get you one time. One of these days, I'm going to show you bullies calling me Napoleon." So Napoleon, his family was actually more Italian than they were French. So he's like a Frenchman, but he's Italian. Napoleon also had a strong fear of cats. They called it ailurophobia. Ailurophobia. It's a fear of cats, okay? And so while, I saw a cat over here about to get, jump on top of a bird, and then it ran off, it flew off, and the cat seemed real disappointed. But I was like, hey, I was pulling for your cat, and it looked at me and then just ran away. Cats are psychopathic, okay? They're always, in their own mind. They're not like obedient like dogs. So I don't know if that's good or bad. They're their own things. I'm not afraid of cats. So if he had a fear of cats, I'm not afraid of them. Now kittens, on the other hand, kittens are terrifying. No, I'm kidding. But the Reign of Terror, he was almost killed for treason. He was in the Jacobin Club with Robespierre. And so when they found that out, they almost... Napoleon's wife's real name was Marie Josephine Rose Thatcher de la Poserie. Let me say that one more time. Napoleon's wife's name is Marie Josephine Rose Thatcher de la Pagerie. And Napoleon was just like, no, I'm just going to call you Josephine. Okay, that's enough of that. Oh, that, whatever you just said. So I want to talk about why he abdicated, what, eventually is what's going to happen to him. He goes to the island of Elba, and then he comes back, this triumphant return. But really it wasn't even a punishment. When he was banished to Elba, he was still allowed to be called emperor. He was allowed to be called emperor. He was allowed to, he had a whole bunch of shit. He was allowed to control the island. He was allowed to have parties for the dignitaries. He was allowed to do, he had full sovereignty. So after he abdicates, he's put onto the island of Elba. He's got full sovereignty over the island. He had a right to build up a small navy, and he was allowed to have lavish parties for visiting dignitaries. But he was like, I just want to be humble and live a life like a justice of the peace, But then in March 1815, he comes back on the French coast with about 1,000 men marching on Paris, and then he takes back Paris, and then he takes France back one more time, and then he gets defeated in Waterloo. So I guess Waterloo, that's another, I hate that he's an imperialist. I do like that he's scaring the shit out of all these royal families, right? Who the fuck are these royal families to act like they're better? At least Napoleon wasn't royalty, I think, right? I don't think he was. But he was stupid. I don't like him. He's an oppressor, a conqueror. He's very self-centered. He's racist. He's an oppressor, and he dies at 51 years old. He's emperor at 35. He's the prime minister, whatever, by coup d'etat at 30. He's the general of the entire French army at 26 years of age. What the fuck could he have known about anything? You know what I mean? He was just at the right place at the right time. And so I want to talk about the Treaty of Fontainebleau. So the Treaty of Fontainebleau is what comes out of Napoleon abdicating. So the treaty is on April 11th, but he abdicates specifically on the 6th. Today. So happy Napoleon Abdication Day. Happy the quitting of tyrants, right? We made Nixon resign, and then we made Napoleon resign. So what happened? Okay, so this great, smart Napoleon, just like Hitler, is like, you know what? Let's invade Russia. But Hitler also invaded America too. But Napoleon, Tsar Alexander I didn't want to comply with Napoleon's embargo of British trade. So, of course, Napoleon did the clear and obvious thing. He needed to invade Russia to force them to comply. You better do as I say. We're cutting Britain out. Britain's cut out. And then Russia's like, but Britain's my friend. No, I said cut it out. Oh, you're not going to cut it out? Now I got 500,000 people. And he raised, 450,000 to 650,000 troops, so about, over 500,000 troops. But eventually it's going to dwindle down to only tens of thousands. So, and they didn't even fire a shot. So this is the craziest thing. So you have the biggest European army that's, coming into Russia. The Russians are terrified. They didn't know what the hell to do. So when they found out that, Napoleon was coming, they would retreat away from their cities, and they would burn their city down so that way Napoleon couldn't use the town's resources. So they burned the crops and the bridges and the city, so that way he had no ability. It's kind of crazy because the Russians are going to win, right, because they're faulting Napoleon down to, his bare britches. But they're burning and torching their own cities, right, just to stay away from Napoleon and not allowing him to take any of the resources. So he keeps chasing them. Eventually, the first major battle happens 2 months after the beginning of the invasion. The Russians withdraw again and allow the French to occupy Moscow. But they set it on fire, of course. Now, Napoleon thought he won, but then he realized that his army was already dwindled, by desertions. There was a typhus epidemic, and he realized he wasn't going to be able to survive the winter in Moscow. So he ordered a retreat, eventually turned into a rout due to the severe weather and constant assaults on his flank and rear. By the time he made it out of Russia, there was only a few tens of thousands of men. Emboldened, Napoleon's opponents immediately went on the offensive, winning the October 1813. Napoleon just got his ass kicked by the Russians, even if he didn't win the battle, maybe even won the war, right? But because all his men were dead, just him and his dog were the only ones that got to survive the winning of Russia. But when, after being defeated and severely weakened, he comes back, to the mainland and the Battle of Leipzig. Eventually, the opponents beat him October 1813, And then his opponents come in and they conquer Paris. The War of the Sixth Coalition with Austria, Prussia, Russia, Sweden, the UK, a bunch of German states. They drove Napoleon out of Germany in 1813, and then 1814, UK, Spain, Portugal invaded France across the Pyrenees. The Russians, Austrians, and their allies invaded France across the Rhine, and after the Battle of Paris, they entered into negotiations with members of the French government for the abdication of Napoleon Bonaparte. So there was a decree by the French Senate who agreed to the coalition's terms, and they passed a resolution deposing of Napoleon. April 5th, 1814. The Senate declares and decrees as follows. Napoleon Bonaparte is cast down from the throne and the right of succession in his family abolished. The French people and army are absolved from their oath of fidelity to him. 3. The present decree shall be transmitted to the departments and armies and proclaimed immediately in all quarters of the capital. So, his own people, the French Senate, is saying, okay, fuck off, Napoleon. We've, lost Paris. And the only thing that they're saying is they want you gone. They want you gone. And Alexander was actually great. He gave up a bunch of 150,000 French prisoners of war. So he's showing, good graces. He's showing that he's got honorable intentions. And the French Senate responded and said, fine, Napoleon, you're good. Allied powers having proclaimed that the Emperor Napoleon is the sole obstacle to the reestablishment of peace in Europe. The Emperor Napoleon, this is Napoleon talking, in third person, faithful to his oath, declares that he is ready to descend from the throne to quit France and even life itself for the good of the country, which is inseparable from the rights of his son, of the regency of the empress, and of the maintenance of the laws of the empire. So he's saying that the Napoleonic code, his rules and laws get to carry on. He also says that his empress, his wife, and his son get to be the new emperor, gets to be the new leaders of France. Now, Emperor Alexander is going to respond and be like, look, as much as I like to trust that you would allow your son and your wife to rule, as they see fit, you'll be in the background, in the shadows, and you'll want to jump out, and then you'll eventually just take them over like you always do. So we can't allow Alexander the First, who apparently is the one writing all the terms for the coalition, but Emperor Alexander it was like, nope, we're not compromising. You step down. None of your family gets power. It's over. It's over. And then Napoleon, Fontainebleau, April 6, 1814. This is when he says what I said at the very beginning. The Allied powers having declared that Emperor Napoleon is the sole obstacle to the reestablishment of a general peace in Europe, the Emperor Napoleon, faithful to his oath, declares that he renounces for himself and his heirs the throne of France and Italy, and that there is no personal sacrifice, not even of that of life itself, which he is not willing to make for the interest of France. April 6, 1814, Napoleon abdicates. So, fuck Napoleon. I'm glad that, poor little Napoleon. Oh, Napoleon, you abdicated. Apparently there's a law in France that says you cannot name any pig Napoleon. No pig is allowed to be named Napoleon. How dare you disrespect Napoleon's good name by putting it on a goddamn dirty, rotten swine. Yeah, that's still a law in France. You can't name a pig Napoleon. And if you look at Animal Farm, because, there's a pig named Napoleon in Animal Farm, if you read it in France, they changed Napoleon to Caesar. Caesar. So, there's censorship in France, which is kind of, it's a little disappointing. I think Germany has had to deal with their past, crimes. They've had to deal with it, so therefore they're much more evolved and they've progressed and they've moved on, whereas France and America, we pretend like we didn't do nothing in the past, right? Collectively. What do you mean? America's done bad things? When? Apparently Napoleon had an acute sense of smell. It was adorable, the way his sense of smell works, very acute. Napoleon's army was the first that used canned foods, right? His last words were France, army, head of the army, Josephine. So he's fucking delirious, right? France, army, head of the army, Josephine. I wonder if actually that's just all the ideas, all the thoughts just racing in his head. Like he is France and he's the head of the army, he's Josephine. These are all the things, that were core, that were central to his identity. Kind of like Rosebud, right? Rosebud. and then drops the thing, and then it's like, hey, what's up with Rosebud? But it was the one thing he couldn't get back, and that was his childhood. Napoleon was terrified of open doors. Why is that door open? What the fuck? What the fuck? All Napoleon's meals were eaten quickly and in silence. I guess, if you're afraid of death, anybody's going to come and get you and kill you at any quarters, right? Hurry up and eat quick in silence, make sure it's not poisoned. With the door being closed, maybe he just didn't want a stray bullet, coming in, or somebody being around the corner. So if you're going to come in the door the way they said that they had to squeeze through a barely adequate opening, so just kind of slip in the door and then shut it real fast. That's the way Napoleon wanted you to enter a room. So you couldn't enter the room like, you're Miss Prima Donna, a debutante. Look at me, I'm the HBIC in this bitch, here I just came in. You can't do that, not with Napoleon in the room. I want to talk about the last battle of Robert E. Lee. I want to talk about the Olympic Games. It was banned for 1,500 years, and it started back up in 1896. And the Scottish, happy Scottish Day. So what is a way to celebrate the abdication of Napoleon? There's many different ways, right? Essentially what I'm doing with these holidays for the revolutionary humanists is every day I'm thinking of historical events that is worthy of celebration, and I'll list about 10 or, a handful of them in hopes that one of them will float up to the top, and that'll be the main day that people think about this. So I got 4 different events today. I have a list about 10. I'm going to be developing these throughout the years. And not only do I need to pick out the event, but also the celebration. How do you celebrate, the abdication of Napoleon? So I was thinking about all the French people in the French Revolution who was against, racism, who was against slavery. We could highlight them. But then I was like, oh, what about Haiti? We should highlight Haitians. But then I was like, God, it's always about culture. What about science? And then I was like, it turns out that Usher's father is from Haiti. So if Napoleon would have got his way and stopped the march of the, black people progressing, then we wouldn't have had Usher. So she likes it my way, my way. Got to be a better way. No, wait. That's a different song. But My Way is the Usher song. So, W.E.B. Du Bois, right? The souls of black folk. He believes in the Negro race and the beauty of its genius, the sweetness of its soul, and its strength and that weakness which shall yet inherit this turbulent earth. W.E.B. Du Bois is Haitian. So there's, I'm going to go Sidney Poitier. He was born in Miami, Florida. His parents were from the Bahamas, but his father had migrated from Haiti, and they were living on cat. Sir Sidney Poitier, Sidney Poitier. He is an actor, and he's been in a bunch of In the Heat of the Night. They call me Mr. Tibbs. Right? Guess who's coming to dinner to serve with love, lilies of the field. A piece of the action. Stir Crazy with Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder, Ghost Dad with Cosby. And so he's an actor. He's still alive, aged 90, but his, father was from Haiti. So he is actually remarkable. He was only, they just visited Miami and had him, and he became an American, but his parents were Bahamian farmers. So, Sidney Poitier. Silvio Cater has held the Haitian record, the national Haitian record, along with the world record long jump. It's the oldest standing national record in athletics. So, he's the Haitian who has jumped the farthest. And he jumped 7.93 meters in the 1924 Olympics. So there's some athleticism there that Napoleon wouldn't have got a chance. We wouldn't have got a chance to see if Napoleon would have got his way. Wyclef Jean. Wyclef Jean is put out a ton of music, and I feel silly that I only know one song, the Fugees, right? Killing Him Softly with His Words. He was going to run in 2010 for president of Haiti, He's put out a ton more music, so strumming my pain with his fingers, singing my life with his words, killing me softly with his song, killing me softly with his song, telling my whole life with his words, killing me softly with his song. Whoa! Lots of people, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, right? All those revolutionaries that fought Jean-Bertrand Aristide. He was twice coup d'etat, the first democratically elected president, but the United States was also carrying on with Napoleon's tradition, making sure that the Haitian people did not progress, and they coup d'etat the first democratically elected president. John Bertrand Aristide is a proponent of liberation theology, a Catholic priest, and again, Haiti's first democratically elected president. So eventually he's overthrown, and the main reason was probably because he wanted France to pay back the reparation money that France owes them, frankly. The sciences, you have Haitian Americans, Gerald A. Alfonsi. He's an electrical engineer, physicist, and research scientist. He's the president of the United States Division of the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers, the IEEE. He's the president in 2005, Gerald A. Alfonsi was. You also have pediatric surgeon Henry Ford, Linda Mark, who's a public health researcher, Charles Louis Reason, a mathematician, linguist, and educator, David Malebranche, physician working in the David Malebranche is a physician working in the field of HIV/AIDS. Then you have John James Audubon, who's a naturalist. They said that he's a Haitian American. He seems pretty white, but he was born in Haiti. Holy crap. Okay, so he's an American naturalist, painter, notable for his extensive studies documenting all types of American birds and his detailed illustrations that depicted the birds in their natural habitat. So John James Audubon, he would have been nothing Alexandre Dumas, the Three Musketeers, and the Count of Monte Cristo. This is the author who wrote the Three Musketeers and the Count of Monte Cristo, right? Is that what a count is? That's Alexandre Dumas, who was the son of a Haitian slave woman and a French soldier. So Henry Christophe, who would be one of the first presidents of Haiti, he also fought in the American Revolution in the Battle of Savannah against the British. Alexander Pétion, he was also a revolutionary, but Pétion and Dessalines had first fought for the French, and Dessalines might have actually turned to Saint Louverture in. Saint Louverture was the Black Napoleon. The one who basically carried the Haitian Revolution for 10 years until, he got sold out by his own people. But Dessalines and Pétion, once they realized that Napoleon wanted to reinstitute slavery because he didn't give a shit about black people. His wife, Josephine, she was a slave-owning family, right? So that privileged, white woman, I'm sure what the fuck would she understand about black liberation or freedom? She didn't know shit about it, right? So Max Gesner Bouvert, the Haitian biochemist and a Hugin. So, he wouldn't have got to exist. And then you have Vincent Oggi. He was a wealthy free man of mixed race descent, instigator of a revolt against white colonial authority in French Saint-Domingue that lasted from October to December 1790 in the area outside of Cap Francois, Francis, the colony's main city. So the Ogay Revolt of 1790 foretold the massive slave uprising of August 1791 that began the Haitian Revolution. So the Ogay Revolt, is that named after him? The Ogay Revolt? Why is he revolting? What is his problem? But apparently this guy's a badass revolutionary. Check him out. Vincent Ogay, O-G-E. Alexander Pétion, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, Henry Christophe to Saint Louverture. These are all founding fathers of Haiti. Haiti wouldn't be what it is today, wouldn't even exist as an independent republic today if it wasn't for, probably the guys who fight in the countryside, the Caicos, C-A-C-O-S, the Caicos. These are the guerrilla fighters that fight in the mountains. So Charlemagne Messina Peralti, he fought against the occupation. The United States occupied Haiti in 1915, and we stayed there for about 10 years. And eventually he went somewhere, got in trouble, and then he got away and started this guerrilla force and even had a constitution. He controlled northern Haiti, but eventually somebody turned him in, just like to St. Louverture, and he got shot in the heart. Charlemagne Peralti was the military chief of the city of Leogane, and he refused to surrender to foreign troops without fighting. He just couldn't do it. But eventually he was arrested for a botched raid. He was sentenced to 5 years of forced labor. That's when he does the guerrilla warfare. Eventually, the troops that Peralti led were called the Caicos, a name that harked back to rural troops that historically took part in the political turmoil of the late 19th century Haiti. The guerrilla warriors of the Caicos were such strong adversaries. The United States upgraded the U.S. Marine contingent in Haiti and even employed airplanes for counter-guerrilla warfare. His forces attacked Port-au-Prince in 1919, but were driven off. They eventually take him. He's, there's a Judas. Judas lets some assassin shoot Peralti in the heart. They take a picture of Peralti, all sprawled out, looking like Jesus Christ, to try to scare the Haitian people. But all they did, instead of scaring the Haitian people, what the American forces did by murdering Charlemagne Peralti's body to a door, they tied it to a door and distributed it through the countryside. The image's resemblance to the crucifixion made it an icon, and it established Peralti as a martyr. That did not work. It made him a martyr. He fought and he died for a courageous cause. So he was able to fight for many years. In fact, he was able to, he was the president. He was the president of northern Haiti, right, in the rebel zone, but he was the leader in the rebel zone. So, he got to be king for a year or two. Andre Rigaud, he's a leading mulatto military leader during the Haitian Revolution. Ben Nuat, Joseph Andre Rigaud, Ben Noit. He was born January 17th. He was mulatto. He was